Hello and welcome to the channel. My name is Sean Huggins and this is Europe with Hugs. Thank you so much for being here. Today we got a video that was very highly requested a bunch of times in the comments, and that is to check out more videos from Not Just Bikes. This one in particular is called Stroads Are Ugly, Expensive, and Dangerous, and They're Everywhere. Whoa! I don't know what a stroad is. I guess a mix of a street and a road. I don't know what the difference is, and I don't know what the combination of that is, but we got a picture of a nice urban sprawl area in America here. This is a pretty typical scene, pretty American street or road or strode or whatever here. So let's just waste no more time and hop straight into it. Oh, but by the way, if you haven't already, consider subscribing. It helps the algorithm, which helps the channel. It's free. It only takes a second, and it helps me a lot. So if you choose to subscribe, that would be greatly appreciated. But okay, enough yapping.
If you live in the US or Canada, then this will certainly look familiar to you. Multiple lanes of car traffic, wide highway-sized lanes, giant signs, traffic lights, parking lots, lots of driveways and side streets with traffic merging in and out.
Yeah.
And a place that's nearly impossible to cross as a pedestrian. There isn't even a sidewalk here.
Yeah. That's
These
pretty
are
normal.
what Strong Towns refers to as Stroads, which is a horrible name, and that's intentional because these are horrible places. Stroads are a street-road hybrid, and they are dangerous, expensive, and ineffective.
What is the difference between a street and a road? I don't understand the difference. What is this?
I'll get to those issues in a moment, but first, let's talk about the difference between a street and a road, according to Strong Towns.
Perfect.
This is a road. It is a high-speed connection between two places. Because of the high speeds involved, there are several safety features. The lanes are wide and forgiving so that vehicles do not bump into each other. The road is as straight as possible, and when curves are necessary, they're designed to be gentle, making it easy to drive along.
Okay.
The area next to the road, called the clear zone, is free of any obstacles that could be hit, just in case a vehicle runs off the road. The signs are very large, designed to be read from a distance and at high speeds. And entrances and exits are few and far between because the road is designed to keep vehicles at a high speed for as long as possible to minimize travel times. Roads are important. We need roads, though I personally prefer my roads to have rails.
Railroads. Haha, nice.
This is a street. It is a complex environment where life in the city happens. Buildings are placed right next to the sidewalk to be easily accessible by people walking, and it gives a sense of space, almost like an outdoor room. This is a place that feels comfortable to be in, so you find people here. There are many entrances and exits to and from the street, and there may also be street parking for vehicles and deliveries. This is an environment meant for slow speeds because this is a destination, not a thoroughfare. High-speed traffic is not compatible with lots of human activity, so vehicle speeds are reduced. Everything on the street is at a human scale. It's designed to be inviting, encouraging people to walk, to window shop, or to just sit and watch the world go by. The street is designed to get the most value out of the space available.
Looks very inviting.
Streets are very important, and we definitely need streets. A stroad, on the other hand, is neither of these things. Just like how a futon converts from a terrible uncomfortable couch to a terrible uncomfortable bed, the stroad is the futon of transportation. It is
The futon of transportation. That's awesome.
street that is designed like a road, and in doing so, it fails at being good at either one.
Okay.
The stroad fails at being a street. There are many driveways to businesses and homes like you'd find on a street, but mixed with multiple highway-sized lanes. This mixes high speeds with many points of conflict. Watch out for this white car turning, and this cyclist. Are there any cars coming out of these driveways? Unlike a street.
Yeah, this is actually kind of crazy because this is normal in America. This is the norm. This isn't something that I would even think about because it's just what it is. That's just life. You don't even think about it. You don't consider any alternatives because this is your only option. You know what I mean?
Stroads are hostile to people outside of a car. There are lots of motor vehicles and speeds are high, so walking or cycling feels uncomfortable and dangerous. There are long distances between places, and there are often large parking lots that need to be crossed before getting anywhere.
True.
and it's basically impossible to cross the Stroad except by walking to a traffic signal and waiting. The signs are large and meant to be read while driving, which feels really out of scale if you're walking there. And often trees have been removed from the clear zone, making the environment even more uninviting if you're not in a car. Somehow, though, painted bicycle gutters are still okay in the clear zone. Traffic engineers are concerned about drivers hitting a tree. Hitting a cyclist is expected.
They paint a target on the bicycle lane here. It's like, if you're going to aim for something, aim for right here. Not the trees. Watch out for the trees. But this right here, aim for this. Aim for the cyclists.
This is clearly a place for cars, so it's unsurprising that pretty much everyone drives here. Trust me, it sucks to walk down this Stroad.
Yeah.
But these environments are ugly anyway. Nobody cares about these places and nobody wants to spend any time here. Cities in the US
True.
and Canada are covered in terrible non-places like this. Places you go because you have to, not because you want to. Nobody actually sits and watches the world go by on this bench.
That is a good point. There is a little bench here, and nobody is going to be driving from miles away because that's what you have to do, or walk from miles away through places like this and just completely hate the entire trip. So realistically, you're probably going to just drive it because it takes exponentially less time. But no one's going to drive from miles away to park right here and then sit in this bench and just relax. Like, that's just not going to happen. No one has ever sat in this bench, ever. It is a very good point.
But the Stroad fails at being a road too. The lanes are wide and there are a lot of them. You're surrounded by asphalt. But you can't actually get anywhere quickly like you can with a road.
That is true.
There are cars constantly
All the red lights, all the stop signs, all the merging in and out.
changing lanes and going in and out of the Stroad, slowing down traffic and introducing many points of conflict that require drivers to constantly slow
This
down to
guy's
avoid a collision.
Making some good points.
Traffic volumes can be quite high on Stroads because there are no viable alternatives to driving. Distances are too far to walk and it's too unsafe to cycle, and since public transit gets stuck in traffic anyway, only the poor and the desperate will take the bus.
This is all true.
So everyone drives.
Oh my God.
But because there are so many crossroads, entrances, and exits to the Stroad, traffic lights are required, meaning drivers are constantly stopping at red lights. And because speeds are high, light timings need to be very long, leading to traffic signal-induced congestion. Nobody is getting anywhere quickly on a Stroad.
Uh-huh.
All of these elements make Stroads unsafe as well, and the majority of fatal crashes within cities happen on Stroads. They are especially dangerous to people walking and cycling. The wide and straight design of highways were designed that way to make them safe for high-speed traffic. But the Stroad to hell is paved with good intentions. On a Stroad, these wide highway-like designs encourage drivers to drive quickly. But combining that with traffic turning in and out of driveways and lots of four-way junctions makes this the most dangerous type of urban driving possible.
I mean, that makes sense. You set everything up for people to want to drive fast because of how it's constructed, but then you introduce a ton of cross streets and stopping and starting in the form of red lights and traffic lights and all kinds of stuff like that. People turning in, people turning off, like all these different things. And then you have people walking and biking. I mean, it really is, when you think about it, pretty terrible design. This guy's got some good points here.
This is an
might be
inherently
onto
unsafe
something.
way to design a road, and it's part of the reason why the US has the most dangerous roads of any developed country.
Cool.
For example, during the coronavirus lockdowns in the first 9 months of 2020, car volumes in the US dropped significantly. But despite an estimated 355 billion fewer miles driven, fatal crashes per mile actually increased by up to 34%.
What? Fatal crashes per mile. What? How is that possible? More people walking around to get hit? Or what is this? I don't understand.
This brings us to the sad truth, that the only reason these unsafe American Stroads aren't killing even more people regularly is because they're usually so jammed up with traffic that drivers can't get going fast enough to kill each other.
Oh, wow, okay.
And finally, Stroads are really expensive. Because Stroads are built to a highway standard, their lanes are very wide and there are never less than 4 lanes. Plus there's normally extra space for shoulders and clear zones at the side of the road too. Because Stroads try to be streets, There are many entrances and exits, so many turning lanes are required. But because of the high
True.
speeds, turning lanes are much longer than on a street, taking up even more space.
Yeah. Dude.
And as traffic increases even
mind is
more
blown right
due to
now.
traffic entering and exiting the Stroad, the city will install another traffic signal for $750,000.
What?
All of this means that a Stroad is much bigger than a road that would carry the same amount of traffic, and significantly larger than a street that would have the same number of businesses and houses along it. As the size of the Stroad increases,
Wow.
there are several other costs incurred. High-speed Stroads need to be flat, so the area that needs to be graded increases. Land may need to be purchased from residents to widen the Stroad and destroy their property values. By the way, do you think this girl is waiting to cross this 5-lane Stroad? Flood
Probably.
protection infrastructure becomes much more expensive due to the impermeable surfaces. And there's a huge amount of asphalt and traffic control systems to
Whoa,
maintain.
look at that shot.
And of course, because everyone drives, large parts of the landscape need to be dedicated to parking lots, meaning everything is inherently spread out and low density. Parking lots don't employ anyone, and they don't earn much tax revenue either.
True.
A Stroad environment is significantly less financially productive than a street, but with significantly more infrastructure. The result is a mix of high cost per area maintenance expenses combined with low value per acre tax revenue, which makes these Stroad environments a net negative for cities.
Man, so you need to spend more to make them. You need to spend more to maintain them. They generate less revenue because there's less businesses on them. They're more dangerous. They're less efficient. Like, these Stroads are terrible. And they're absolutely everywhere in America. Like, these are everywhere in America. Why are we doing this?
These places are literally putting American cities on the Stroad to financial ruin. And they're doing it while being
Stroad.
dangerous, ugly, and ultimately ineffective at actually moving people.
Why are we doing it?
The Stroad fails at every metric, but it's the default setting for transportation design almost everywhere in the US and Canada. So what's the alternative?
I don't know. Give
Well,
me the
Strongtown
answers.
advocates for one of two things. First, you can convert a Stroad into a road. This means limiting access to the Stroad, accessing businesses and neighborhoods from side streets. Painted bicycle gutters need to be removed because moving vehicles is the primary objective of a road. People can still walk or cycle, but these paths need to be completely separated from the flow of traffic. In this way, the Stroad becomes a road, a high-speed connection between two places. The other alternative is to turn the Stroad into a street. For this, the lanes need to be narrowed and parking needs to be moved to the curb or behind buildings, and the buildings themselves need to be built closer to the street.
Okay.
Everything needs to be brought down to a human scale, making it inviting to people and getting more value from the space available. This isn't a hypothetical, and we don't have to imagine what this would look like, because the Netherlands has already done it, just with 3 types of infrastructure instead of the 2 proposed by Strongtowns. You will almost never find a Stroad here, because in the 1990s, the Dutch adopted the concept of sustainable traffic safety. And one of the key pillars of this program was that every road and street in the Netherlands has to be classified and designated as one of the following 3 options. The first is a stroomweg, which is pretty straightforward. It is a motorway or highway. I think everyone is familiar with these, so I won't spend too much time on it. But the important thing here is that there are no traffic controls. Cars enter and exit through merge lanes, and you will never find a traffic light or roundabout on a stroomweg.
Okay.
Highways should also go around cities and never through cities. I'm looking at you, Cincinnati.
Oh,
Actually,
dang.
that's not fair, because basically all American cities did this.
dude. I never thought about that either. Why do highways have to go through cities? That just seems like such a waste of time and space and energy and everything.
Thankfully,
God.
the plan to do this to Amsterdam was unsuccessful.
Wow.
Moving one level down is the,
Gebiedsontsluitingsweg. Wow.
Gebiedsontsluitingsweg, the distributor road.
Gesundheit.
These are the connectors between highways and streets. There may be entrances and exits to other streets and roads, but driveways to houses or businesses are avoided as much as possible. And if traffic controls are necessary, then roundabouts are preferred, unless traffic volumes require a traffic light. I'm going to refer to these as roads. Finally, there's the Erftoegangsweg, the neighborhood access street. These are the end destinations for journeys, the places where people live, work, shop, relax, and so on. I'm going to refer to these as streets. Streets are designed to be low speed with a speed limit of no more than 30 kilometers per hour, and they almost never have more than one motor vehicle lane per direction. In many cases, vehicle speeds are slow enough that separated bicycle infrastructure is not required, though bicycle paths may still be used to purposefully narrow the street, constraining the space available for motor vehicles.
Okay, that's
the
fine.
street network is designed to discourage through traffic by cars, either through traffic calming or by explicitly blocking cars while still allowing walking, cycling, and public transit to take the most direct route.
Oh, wow. Okay, so instead of giving cars preferential treatment, which is obviously completely normal in America, you give preferential treatment to the people walking, cycling, public transportation, so that encourages people to do those things in the first place instead of being like, oh, I'll just hop in the car, further reducing traffic and making everything even more efficient. Very smart. Very smart, Europe. You Europeans, you might be onto something here.
I've talked about this before in my invisible infrastructure video, where I show a typical trip by bicycle through the street network compared to the very different route by road that is taken when driving. Once you learn about these three types of road in the Netherlands, what I'm unofficially calling highways, roads, and streets, it's really interesting to drive around and see which type you're on. This is a street. This is a road. This is a street. This is a road. This is a road with streets on either side to access houses.
Oh.
Since this is a relatively recent concept, only implemented about 30 years ago, the best place to see this in action is in newer developments. Here we are driving on a road outside the town of Nieuwleusen. This road is designed to move vehicles, so there is no direct access to adjacent properties.
Oh, cool.
The homes and businesses are accessed by streets on the right and left side, and the road is mostly accessed by roundabout.
Oh,
As we exit the roundabout into this industrial park, the road turns into a street, where cars and trucks can access the warehouses and industrial facilities safely and efficiently without disrupting traffic on the road.
Smart.
It's also very interesting to see where one type turns into another. This is clearly a street, a residential street in Amsterdam.
Right.
There is parking on either side, and there are many side streets branching off.
Right.
There are no traffic lights or stop signs. Speeds are low here, so intersections are unmarked, and you give priority to any vehicle coming from the right. I've talked about this before in my video about stop signs. This street has a brick road surface, speed bumps, and other traffic calming measures to slow down traffic. The speed limit is 30 kilometers an hour, and bicycle and motor vehicle traffic is mixed. But as we travel down this street, we come to a set of traffic lights, and here is where this street becomes a road.
Oh.
The bicycle path becomes totally separated from motor vehicle traffic. There's no more street parking. The road surface is made of smooth asphalt, and there's a median separating the traffic lanes. There are buildings on...
Dude, this just makes too much sense to me. It makes too much sense. Make it not make sense,
but crucially,
so I'm not so depressed.
They cannot be accessed by this road, because turning traffic would be inefficient and unsafe. As we travel down this road a little farther, we can see here it turns back into a street.
Oh, wow.
Here's another example in the suburb of Amstelveen. The right-of-way is about 22 meters, which in the US or Canada would be at least a 4-lane road with center turning lane. But despite the space available, there's only one lane of motor vehicle traffic in each direction here, and the lanes are narrow, which encourages drivers to drive slower. Single-lane roads are much safer because cars changing lanes introduces points of conflict between vehicles, and they are easier for pedestrians to cross. This also frees up space on both sides for car parking, a bicycle path, and a sidewalk.
Wow.
There are multiple other streets intersecting with this one, bringing traffic in and out of the street. A few meters along, this street starts to turn into a road. Here you can see that access to the houses and parking on the right-hand side are provided by a small side street running parallel to the road, so that through traffic does not compete with drivers going in and out of parking spaces.
Smart.
Travel along this road a little farther, and the street has completely turned into a road. There is a stoplight,
Wow, this is blowing my mind right now. I mean, even though I've spent a lot of time in Europe and have gone to a bunch of different countries in Europe, I never thought about how the infrastructure is actually built and designed, and I never thought about anything like this. I never thought about how the roads are and stuff. And all of this is just blowing my mind right now. Like, this is fascinating stuff here.
Lanes of motor vehicle traffic and an entrance to a highway. The bicycle path is two-way and isolated completely from the road.
Oh, wow.
A little farther along, this road becomes quite interesting. Here, there are several houses, but instead of being accessed directly, as they would be on a Stroad, they're accessible by a two-way side street, which was made purposefully narrow to slow down drivers. This also provides a safe alternative for people cycling.
Oh, nice.
The road itself is only 2 lanes for car traffic, with turning lanes when necessary. 1 lane has been reserved as a bus lane, and there is a 2-way cycling path as well. It's also interesting to note that because dedicated bus lanes and bicycle paths are much more efficient at moving people than car lanes, this road configuration can actually transport more people than a typical Stroad.
Oh, wow.
The Netherlands didn't change this overnight, and this transition to roads and streets is not totally complete. There are still some streets here that carry too much through traffic, for example, but at least they're usually only 2 lanes wide. This change has happened slowly, with street and road redesigns spread out over the past 30 years. The first step, though, was identifying that there was a problem with road safety and road productivity and changing the design standards to match. It's time to face the fact that designing Stroads as both a high-speed thoroughfare and a destination simply doesn't work. Stroads are dangerous and expensive, they destroy walkability, they make cycling dangerous and infeasible, and they don't work for drivers either. The US and Canada need to rethink the traffic engineering manuals that define urban spaces and start building productive streets and efficient roads. Then they can get on the road to recovery and benefit from fewer traffic deaths, more viable alternatives to driving, less traffic, and more financially productive cities. It's the end of the road for Stroads. Good riddance.
Yeah, I am fully on board with this, but let's be honest, it's just not going to happen. It's not going to happen in America, at least. Maybe in Canada. Canada's a little bit different than America, but in America, it's not going to happen. The car industry rules all of America and American politics, and the car industry is so huge in America that the government wants people to be driving. They want people to be driving as much as possible. It creates jobs, it creates wealth for the already giant car companies, the gas companies, probably construction companies constructing all of the roads and parking lots and everything else. All these people are making so much money from people having to drive in America. They're not going to want to let that go easily. So unfortunately, I don't see this changing ever, but that's not to say that this isn't a better option. The European sort of actual defining of different streets and roads is definitely a better option overall. It's a shame that America would definitely never get on board with this, but unfortunately, it is what it is. But anyways, if you enjoyed the video, consider subscribing. We're trying to hit that magical 1,000 subscriber mark, so it'd be greatly appreciated. But that's all the time that I have for today, so thank you guys so much for being here, and as always, I'll see you guys next time. Peace.